The assessed damages came to 130 million yuan. The owner was the most untouchable heiress in Jingxi. Miss Pei, I forced myself to ask her about installment payments. For these damages, could I pay in installments? She reclined on the sofa and studied me for 10 seconds. Her red lips curled slightly. Then pay me with yourself. Later, I became her fake boyfriend to ward off suitors. She paid off my debts and settled my troubles. She even transferred me into the music department I'd always dreamed of. I only had one job: pretend to like her. The day I went with Pei Yanran to the national violin competition, I sat in the audience. She won the gold medal. Instead of celebrating with her coach first, she went backstage and changed into a white bridal gown. Then she raced through the crowd and threw herself into my arms. She took out the matching rings she'd prepared long ago. Chen, will you marry me? The entire venue erupted in screams. Those rings cost 410 million yuan. But that very night, her mother had people drag her onto a flight to the United Kingdom. At the airport, I watched her through the glass, my heart breaking. She gazed at me, her eyes brimming with love, and spoke her final words. Wait for me to come back. 5 years later, on a London street, an elegant woman stood before a giant screen. Displayed on it were photos of me from the past 5 years. 5 years. I had gone from an ordinary man drowning in debt to center stage in the international music world through sheer talent. A young woman from Huaguo came over and asked, "Ma'am, is he your idol?" The woman did not move. Her voice was cool and certain. My husband. Meanwhile, my assistant, Tang Qiu, let out an excited howl. Chen, we've received another invitation for a private performance. He was as giddy as a 200-pound kid. I laughed helplessly. It's only a private performance. Why are you so excited? Tang Qiu leaned in mysteriously. He lowered his voice and said, "This time is different. Guess how much they're offering?" For one performance, I usually make only 500,000 yuan. Judging by his reaction, I made a cautious guess. 800,000 yuan? He shook his head wildly. No. Guess higher. Higher than 800,000. What sucker would pay that? 1 million yuan. But Tang Qiu pursed his lips again. Higher. Much higher. That is completely unrealistic. Now I was on guard. Could this be some high-paying scam? To lure me to Myanmar and harvest my kidneys? I am not taking that job. My life matters more. Tang Qiu burst out laughing. He patted his chest and promised. What are you thinking? The performance is being held here at home. Right here in Jingxi. I heard it is for an heiress who just returned from the United Kingdom. My curiosity was instantly piqued. Do you know who she is? No idea. They are being rather mysterious. All I know is that the heiress's surname is Pei. Pei. That surname made my heart jolt. It was as if something deep in my mind had been stirred. Oh, right? The piece she requested was Old Dream. Pei. Old Dream. Why do they seem to exist somewhere in my memories? They felt so familiar. I frowned deeply. Yet I could not grasp that memory, no matter how hard I tried, as though it had been sealed away in the deepest part of my mind. Just as I struggled to remember, Tang Qiu suddenly blurted out a staggering number. 5.2 million yuan. What that number means is a blatant declaration of love. Why make it so romantic? Could she like you? Chen, what love-struck woman has been secretly pining for our boss Jiang? Coming back to myself, I shot him a glance. Then I said lightly, "You're overthinking it." The private performance was to be held at Qinghuan, in Jingxi's most exclusive neighborhood. They send a Rolls-Royce Phantom to pick us up. Tang Qiu's eyes went wide with amazement. Holy crap. Is this the kind of treatment an heiress gets? This is insanely extravagant. Would it really hurt the world? If it had one more rich person, would it? I could not help laughing. I'll give you a raise this month. The moment I said that, Tang Qiu shrieked. Boss Jiang, you're so generous. The Rolls-Royce Phantom glided smoothly along, driving straight into Qinghuan. It stopped before a lavish estate so vast. Its grounds stretched beyond sight. Its extravagantly ornate decor reeked of the decadence of wealth at every turn. Even I could not help marveling inwardly. Just who was this heiress? To be this rich? The butler and servants waited respectfully at the estate gates. Mr. Jiang, this way, please. I gave a slight nod. An unusual sense of foreboding rose within me. Once inside the estate, the butler led me to a dressing room. A servant handed me an outfit. I looked up and saw a traditional Chinese outfit in Hantang style. Please change first. Someone will come style you shortly. All right, I replied politely. I quickly changed into the performance outfit. It fit perfectly. It was as if it had been tailored just for me. After I changed, the stylist began working on my hair. About 20 minutes later, I was fully prepared. The butler led me to the performance stage. I looked down at the audience. A woman with a willowy figure sat there, but the lighting was dim, so I could not make out her face. Yet her gaze was like a brand, fixed unyieldingly on me. Before I could think further, the woman raised a hand, signaling me to begin. I forcibly reined in my emotions and immersed myself completely in the performance. When the performance ended, I bowed to the audience. The moment I stepped off stage, a servant blocked my path. Mr. Jiang, our young mistress invites you to dinner. At that, I instinctively turned to look. The lighting was still dim, and I still could not see her face, backlit by the stage lights. I walked toward her step by step. At last, her face came clearly into view. Her radiant, delicate face beamed at me. Her long dress was sensual, yet effortlessly casual. She radiated a languid, sensual tension that was almost overwhelming. She stared at me. Her red lips curved into a sly smile. Chen, long time no see. Her voice was unbearably seductive, piercing straight through my eardrums. The next second, I suddenly clutched my chest. It felt as if someone had viciously seized my heart, the pain leaving me barely able to breathe. Seeing me like that, she rose to her feet in alarm. She reached out and rushed into my arms. I cried out in surprise, then stood there frozen. Her arm curled around mine. Chen, she said tenderly. I'm back, and I'm never leaving again. I looked down at the face inches from mine, a face that left me utterly bewildered. My mind went blank. I tried to push her away. She looked up at me with an amused smile. But when she saw my bare ring finger, her pupils abruptly contracted. I frowned instinctively and asked hesitantly, did we know each other before? The smile on her lips froze instantly. She stared at me fixedly, her voice trembling slightly, as she asked in disbelief, Jiang Chen, have you really forgotten me? I racked my brain, but it felt like something had sealed my memories away. I shook my head. I'm sorry. You feel very familiar, but I really can't remember. The air froze. She seemed to lose all hope in an instant. I hurriedly averted my eyes, unable to look at her again. To escape this strange, charged tension, I quickly pulled away from her. Miss Pei, is there anything else you need? If not, I'll go change first. She hesitated for a moment, then answered coolly, I turned and left. Her heavy gaze followed me from behind, and I could feel the wounded sorrow radiating from her. I paused, then I left behind one word, sorry. With that, I fled in a panic. I went to the dressing room and changed back into my own clothes. My racing heart would not settle. Tang Qiu eagerly crowded around me. Boss Jiang, do you know that Miss Pei? My hand paused. I looked at my bewildered face in the mirror. Once I was dressed, I said, maybe. Tang Qiu's eyes immediately lit up. Damn, she's gorgeous. She's an absolute goddess. That face, that figure. He leaned close to my ear and whispered mysteriously, she looks incredibly curvy. Boss Jiang, you have to win her over. I frowned, suppressing the strange feeling in my chest, and scolded him. Listen to yourself. How can you judge someone behind your back? I've met enough people to know. I guarantee it. Hey, Boss Jiang, why are you blushing? You're so easily embarrassed. How will you ever date anyone? I shook my head helplessly. I have no plans to date for now. Someone came over carrying tea. Mr. Tang, Mr. Jiang, you've worked hard. Please have some tea. I smiled softly, taking the tea, and took a light sip. The servant added the next moment, Miss Pei will arrange a car to take you both home later. I immediately declined. No need to trouble Miss Pei. My family will pick me up as soon as I finish speaking. Since Mr. Jiang's family is coming for him, we will not send a car. A cool female voice suddenly rang out in the room. I looked toward the voice. Pei Yanran had actually walked in. When will your family arrive, Mr. Jiang? I'll see you out. I came back to my senses and quickly looked down at my phone. Just then, my mother sent me a message. Chen, I'm outside Qinghuan. My family is already here. I looked at her and said politely. She immediately replied, then let's go. I'll walk you out. Mr. Jiang, I wanted to refuse, but seeing her like this, I nodded anyway. Thank you, Miss Pei. The moment we stepped out of Moulin Manor, a low-key Maybach came into view. My mother, Song Weilin, was standing beside it. When she saw me, Chen, I hurried over. Mom, she handed me a bouquet of flowers. I accepted them happily. Thanks, Mom. And Song. Oh, little Tang. My mother's gaze fell on Pei Yanran by chance. Her loving smile froze at once. This must be Miss Pei. Hello, Miss Pei. Pei Yanran's soft, watery eyes instantly reddened. She forced down her emotions and gave my mother a slight nod. In a cool voice, she said, I have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. Before she even finished speaking, she turned and walked away. The instant she turned, tears silently slid down her face. In a bedroom at Moulin Manor, Pei Yanran sat back in an armchair, sitting silently. She remained there until dawn's first light streamed through the window lattice, falling across her streaked gray hair. Overwhelmed by grief and fury, Pei Yanran's hair had turned white overnight. A phone ringing suddenly shattered the dead silence. Her lashes trembled lightly. Only after a long while did she pick up the phone. Qinghuan's voice came through. Yanran. Her voice was heavy with disappointment. What's wrong? Wasn't this supposed to be a long-awaited reunion? Why do you sound so sad? The woman sighed softly. Chen has lost his memory. Qinghuan gasped. What? Are you sure? Wednesday night, I stood center stage at the charity gala, playing the bamboo flute. As I played the final note, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. I retreated backstage, where a gentle, elegant figure suddenly appeared before me. Jingxing stood there, holding a large bouquet of flowers. Chen, congratulations on a wonderful performance. I accepted the flowers with a smile. But just then, a cold, displeased gaze pierced into me. I looked over and saw Pei Yanran. All around her, she radiated a dangerous aura that made it hard to breathe. She walked straight toward me. She spoke in 3 clipped syllables. Mr. Jiang. Miss Pei. I quickly gave her a slight nod. Her gaze swept over me like a laser, then settled on Jingxing's face. Who is she to you? I was a little confused, but I explained anyway. She's my friend. At that, she gave a soft laugh, her lips curving in an ambiguous smile. Friend. Then her gaze fell on the bouquet Jingxing had given me. She asked displeasedly, or your girlfriend? I explained instinctively. She's a friend. Pei Yanran gave a casual laugh, then turned to Jingxing. So you are just friends? This bouquet is beautiful. May I have a look? I nodded. I handed her the bouquet. The moment I let go, she unexpectedly let go too. The vibrant bouquet crashed heavily to the floor, with a dull thud. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Though she apologized, she feigned a misstep and stepped on the petals. I was completely stunned. 1,000 questions filled my mind. Then she bent down, picked up the bouquet, and tossed it into the nearby trash can. She did it in one fluid motion, without a moment's hesitation. She looked at me again, with the same earnest apologetic look on her face. I truly am sorry, Mr. Jiang, but I really didn't mean to. Then she added, later, I'll buy you a new bouquet. I was utterly speechless. How was any of that unintentional? Other than her words, everything about her screamed that it was deliberate. In all my life, even when picking a fight, I could never say anything that outrageous. Mr. Jiang, why aren't you saying anything? Her eyes looked innocent and aggrieved. Are you blaming me? She irritated me so much that I laughed. I could only answer stiffly. No. I turned to apologize to Jingxing, but just as I was about to speak, it's only a bouquet of flowers. Pei Yanran coldly cut me off. I'm sure Miss Zhu isn't so petty. Wouldn't you agree? She looked at Jingxing with a faint, mocking smile, her eyes full of provocation. Jingxing's expression stiffened, but she forced herself to say, it's only a bouquet of flowers. It isn't important. Next time, I'll give Chen something better. Pei Yanran replied in a mocking tone. Oh, you give unimportant things to your idol, while keeping the important things hidden away. Jingxing's face instantly turned dark red. She was just about to explain, when Tang Qiu rushed over, saying urgently, Mr. Jiang, go change your clothes. The gala is about to begin. Tang Qiu pulled me away, but I instinctively looked back. Pei Yanran was also preparing to leave with us. But before she left, she shot Jingxing a provocative glance. Jingxing's eyes instantly turned cold, and her red lips pressed into a tight line. After the charity gala ended, I got into the car. My fingertips still held the feel of the bamboo flute, but all I could think of was that trampled bouquet. I irritably tugged at my tie. Tang Qiu kept sneaking looks at me from the passenger seat. I rubbed my temple. Say whatever you want to say. He grinned and leaned closer. Mr. Jiang, that was an eye-opener. Miss Pei's acting was incredible. Even stepping on flower petals, she looked like she was on a runway. There were so many people at the backstage entrance, yet not one of them dared say a word. I shot him a glare. You seem to admire her. I wouldn't call it admiration. It's just that, Mr. Jiang, I can't help feeling that Miss Pei has a strange look in her eyes when she sees you. Something is off. Ever since I met Pei Yanran, she has felt strangely familiar. I was certain. I had no memory of this woman. Then why did it feel like she knew me so well? Tang Qiu and I returned to the apartment. It was already late at night. I took off my suit jacket and tossed it onto the sofa, just as I was about to shower. Tang Qiu's phone suddenly began vibrating wildly. He answered it, and his face visibly drained of color. After hanging up, he went limp, as if his bones had been pulled out. Mr. Jiang, something has happened. My heart sank. Every commercial performance booking we had for the second half of the year has been cancelled. I froze. All of them? Huajing Grand Theater's year-end concert, the Shanghai Philharmonic's double concerto, the Shenzhen International Music Festival, and the Macau New Year's Eve concert. Tang Qiu listed them all in one breath. Every last one is gone. My breath caught. Those bookings had taken me 5 hard years to earn, one by one. From small bars in Europe, I had played my way to Royal Albert Hall. From being called that Chinese boy, to international critics writing columns to recommend me. Every performance was my lifeblood. Why? I tried to keep my voice steady. They said there was a scheduling conflict. Tang Qiu looked miserable. They'll pay double the liquidated damages. I gave a cold laugh. On the same day, by the same group, every booking was cancelled. Someone is pulling strings. Tang Qiu looked at me cautiously. Mr. Jiang, could it be? Could Zhu Jingyan be behind this? She doesn't have that kind of power. No matter how capable Zhu Jingyan is, she doesn't have the influence to, in a single night, sway so many top-tier organizers. The only person who could do this. My mind began to buzz. That strikingly beautiful face surfaced in my mind again. At 8 the next morning, the apartment doorbell rang. Tang Qiu, looking wary, ran to answer it. When he returned, Mr. Jiang, there's someone outside. She says her name is Qinghuan, and that she's Miss Pei's best friend. Qinghuan. Why did that name feel both familiar and unfamiliar again? It was so frustrating. I straightened my clothes and went out. On the living room sofa sat a woman in a beige trench coat. When she saw me come out, she rose and politely offered her hand. Mr. Jiang. Hello. I shook her hand. Polite, but distant. Sorry to keep you waiting, Miss G. What can I do for you? She got straight to the point. I'm here to ask you a question on Yanran's behalf. Do you really not remember anything at all? I fell silent. Qinghuan stared into my eyes. Jiang Chen, 5 years ago, you said something to me yourself. Do you remember? I shook my head. She gave a small smile. There was an indescribable weariness in it. You told me then. Qinghuan, if Yanran's mother takes her away, please try to stop them from me. She's the only woman I'll ever marry. Those words were like a key, being violently thrust into my mind. But the lock wouldn't budge. I pressed a hand to my temples. Cold sweat seeped out. I'm sorry. I really can't remember. Qinghuan pulled a document from her briefcase. Mr. Jiang, this is an exclusive buyout contract between Pei Entertainment and every organizer handling your commercial performances, starting today. For the next 3 years, their schedules will be entirely bought out by the Pei Group. For the next 3 years, that means within China, every one of my top commercial performances has been snapped up by Pei Yanran herself. I practically ground the words out through my teeth. What does she want? Mr. Jiang, you should ask her that yourself. Miss G, in life and in business, there have to be limits. Limits. She gave a soft laugh. Mr. Jiang, you're talking about limits with Yanran. Miss Pei and I have only an ordinary business relationship. Jiang Chen, you may have forgotten her, but you cannot be ignorant of what happened 5 years ago and how she was sent away on that plane. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Qinghuan didn't answer me. She merely took a yellowed photograph from her pocket and placed it on the coffee table. Take a look. I walked over and picked up the photograph. It was old. Its corners curled up. It showed to people. One was Yanran in a wedding gown. The other was me, wearing a suit. Our eyes were full of tenderness too deep to fade. The hand holding the photograph began to shake violently. My temples throbbed. It felt as if something inside was struggling to break free. A girl stood on a stage, a violin in her hand. Then she ran toward me with a smile, straight into my arms. Chen, will you marry me? Then the vision shattered. I staggered back a step, catching myself on the coffee table before I fell. Mr. Jiang. Qinghuan reached out to steady me in alarm. I'm fine. Did you remember something? Did you? I shook my head. Just a few fragments, too blurry to make out. The look in Qinghuan's eyes changed. The initial hostility turned into something complicated. She hesitated for several seconds, then finally spoke. Jiang Chen, when you and Yanran separated 5 years ago, your separation had nothing to do with whether her mother approved. My heart skipped a beat. That year, your father's company, Jiang Pharmaceutical, because of the Pei family, was on the brink of bankruptcy. My pupils constricted. To save your father's company, Yanran made a deal with her mother. She agreed to study in the United Kingdom in exchange for saving Jiang Pharmaceutical from collapse. My blood ran cold in an instant. She gave a soft laugh. Mr. Jiang, every benefactor who helped your career, every fortunate promotion beyond the usual rules, Yanran was behind every one of them. The living room was silent except for my pounding heartbeat. My fingers clenched tight. 5 years. I thought those inexplicable invitations that fell into my lap were heaven finally smiling on me. But someone had been where I couldn't see, paving an entire golden road for me. Yet when she returned 5 years later, I looked into her face and asked, have we met before? Qinghuan sighed. I shouldn't have told you. My voice was hoarse. My eyes bloodshot as I looked at her. Then why did you tell me? She pointed out the window. Because she didn't sleep all night. More than half her hair turned white. I jerked my head up. Jiang Chen, in all my life, I've never seen anyone turn gray overnight because of someone. But Yanran did. Daylight blazed outside the window. Yet I felt swallowed by endless darkness. After Qinghuan left, Tang Qiu came in carrying coffee. He found me sitting motionless on the sofa. Carefully, he set the coffee on the table. Mr. Jiang. I didn't look up. Mr. Jiang, are you all right? I stared at the photograph, my fingertips gently tracing the girl's face in it. Only after a long while did I speak in a low voice. Tang Qiu, look into something for me. Mr. Jiang, go ahead. I turned the photograph over. On the back was a line of graceful handwriting. Chen, at my first wedding, I'll marry only you. It was dated June 8th, 5 years ago. I clenched the photograph tightly, my knuckles turning white. Find out whether on June 8th, 5 years ago, St. John's Church in the western outskirts of Jing City, there was a wedding that was never completed. Tang Qiu looked at me, utterly bewildered. Mr. Jiang, you. I raised my head, my eyes blazing red. Just do it. After Tang Qiu left, I sat on the sofa all night. I turned that photograph over and over, looking at it more than 100 times. The girl in the photograph smiled with such unguarded innocence. And the me in that photograph, my gaze was as clear as if I'd just stepped out of spring. I didn't know how I'd lost that version of myself, or how I had lost her, either. At 6 in the morning, Tang Qiu burst into the apartment. He didn't knock. He used the spare key and rushed straight in. His hair was a mess, like a bird's nest, with dark circles beneath his eyes. Mr. Jiang. He slammed a stack of documents onto the coffee table. I shot to my feet. I found it. Mr. Jiang, you need to prepare yourself. I grabbed the top sheet. It was a photocopy of a registration record from St. John's Church in the western outskirts of Jing City. June 8th, 5 years ago, at 3 that afternoon. Bride and groom, Jiang Chen and Pei Yanran. 2 names were signed under the wedding witnesses. One was Qinghuan. The other was my father, Jiang Qinghuan. My fingers began to tremble violently. Mr. Jiang, there is one more. Tang Qiu pulled out another sheet. These are the payment records from that day. Every single one bears your father's personal signature. I collapsed back onto the sofa. So that wedding had not only been real, it had been arranged by my father himself. For the past 5 years, everyone in my family had been deceiving me, and me alone. Mr. Jiang, Tang Qiu lowered his voice. I looked up at him. There is something else. He swallowed hard. I found St. John's old gatekeeper last night and bought him drinks. He said, the wedding was halfway through that day when something happened. As the bride and groom exchanged rings, they fell down the stairs. The bride lost consciousness on the spot. What about me? You passed out too. Fortunately, at the moment of the accident, the bride shielded you tightly. You only suffered scrapes. Tang Qiu paused. After that, some other things happened. I closed my eyes. A burning tear slid from the corner of my eye. I no longer had the courage to hear more. All that remained in my mind were her words. Chen, you really forgot me. I stood outside the pay group building, clutching a steaming Americano. This was what I'd asked Tang Qiu to find out. Every day at 3 in the afternoon, Pei Yanran came downstairs to buy an Americano from the cafe across the street. No sugar, no milk. The kind so bitter it made you frown. Qinghuan said. She picked up that habit in the United Kingdom and had kept it for 5 years. A 5-year habit. Yet I couldn't even remember what she liked to drink. At exactly 3, the revolving door spun open. She walked out, her phone in hand, looking at something on it. She walked right past me, without even glancing my way, until I called out to her. Pei Yanran. She stopped and turned around. What is it? A clipped question, like a blade cutting through the air. The words I had prepared suddenly caught in my throat. I want to talk to you. She glanced at her watch. About what? I have 15 minutes. I froze for a moment, then held out the coffee. I heard you like Americanos. I was passing by, so I picked one up. She glanced at it, but didn't take it. Chen, you don't need to do this. I don't mean anything by it. I just wanted to apologize. She cut me off, her tone as calm as if she were reading a report. You've already apologized. Qinghuan told me. You said you were sorry, and I received it. Is that enough? I stood there holding the coffee, suddenly realizing how ridiculous I was. Yes, I had apologized. But then what? I spoke in a low voice. I truly don't remember that time. About you? About the wedding? About everything. I didn't do it on purpose. I know. Qinghuan told me everything. Amnesia. Selective memory loss. Psychological trauma. There is a medical explanation for it. Logically, it all makes sense. So what? Do you expect me, just because you say you don't remember, to pretend these 5 years never happened? That isn't what I mean. Then what do you mean? I looked into her eyes, but couldn't say a word. I could only look at her, holding back everything I wanted to say. She took a deep breath. Chen, I don't hate you. Hating someone is exhausting. I don't have the energy for it. I just don't know how to face you. So, you don't need to go out of your way to find me. Neither of us owes the other anything. With that, she turned to leave. After 2 steps, she stopped. With her back to me, she said, one more thing. I don't drink Americanos. I watched Pei Yanran's retreating figure and threw the coffee into a trash can. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, all I could see was that distant look in her eyes. She said she didn't hate me, but she hadn't forgiven me either. To her, I had become someone she did not need to face. I picked up my phone and found Tang Qiu's contact. Find out her schedule for the next few days. 5 minutes later, Tang Qiu replied with a question mark. Mr. Jiang, didn't you say not to disturb her? I gave an awkward cough. I've changed my mind. Are you going to check or not? Yes. You're my boss. Whatever you say. Early the next morning, Tang Qiu sent a report to my phone. It was Pei Yanran's schedule for the week. I looked over the report, my finger stopping on the screen. Thursday. The orphanage. Today was Thursday. I gave myself no time to hesitate. I drove straight to the orphanage. When I arrived, I stayed in my car, watching her play with the children from afar. She crouched on the ground, building blocks with a little girl wearing pigtails. The way she smiled overlapped with a blurry image. From my memory, I remembered that smile. I really remembered it. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I didn't get out. I just sat in the car, watching her laugh and play with the children from afar. They shared a small piece of cake. She was smiling so happily, utterly unlike the woman outside pay group yesterday. So, she could smile around other people, only after her car left the orphanage. Did I start my engine and follow her? Pei Yanran didn't go home. Instead, she went somewhere on the outskirts of Beijing. I followed her car to an old neighborhood. She entered a music shop. I waited in my car for 40 minutes. When she came out, she carried a long case. It was a violin case. She carefully placed the case on the passenger seat. As she bent down to set it inside, her gaze suddenly swept over my car across the street. Our eyes met from opposite sides of the street. She froze for a moment, then straightened and looked at me, as if trying to figure out what I wanted. I got out and walked over. "What's wrong with your violin?" She glanced at me. "It's an old violin. There are a few tiny cracks in the wood. The soundboard had begun to come unglued. Uncle Zhao reglued it for me and changed the strings while he was at it." Her tone was flat, as if she were chatting with an ordinary friend, but her fingers tightened slightly around the case. I caught that small detail. "Can I see it?" She hesitated for a second, then handed me the case. I turned to the inside of the case and saw an engraved line. My fingers suddenly went stiff. "YR, Yanran's initials." I looked up at her. "Your first listener gave this to you. You engraved it." I lowered my eyes to the engraving. "I engraved it. I don't remember." She took the case back, put it on the passenger seat, and shut the door. Then she turned to me and asked, "Why are you following me?" I pressed my lips together. "I don't know. I just wanted to see you." She said nothing. The wind swept in, tossing her hair slightly. She tucked it behind her ear. "You've seen me now." And then, I paused. "Are you going to the orphanage again tomorrow?" She looked at me, something unreadable in her eyes. "Yes, then I'll come again tomorrow." She didn't respond, but she didn't refuse either. She opened the car door and got in. The window rolled halfway down, and her voice came from inside. "Chen, you don't need to make it up to me like this. I don't need your pity. I don't pity you. I just wanted to come." She said nothing more. Her car slowly pulled away. I stood there, watching her taillights vanish around the corner. The phone in my pocket vibrated. It was a text from her. "Tomorrow at 10. I stared at her message and laughed aloud on the sidewalk. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, ready to head home, when it suddenly vibrated again. It was Tang Qiu calling. "Mr. Jiang, there's something I think you should know. Zhu Jingyan met someone this afternoon." Tang Qiu lowered his voice. "At a private club on East 3rd Ring Road. I had someone look into it. The person she met is named Pei Jingxing." I never heard that name before. "Who is he?" Tang Qiu paused, then said, "He's the eldest son of the Pei family's eldest branch. By family relation, he is Pei Yanran's cousin." "What does he want with Zhu Jingyan?" "I don't know, but I also uncovered some old history. 5 years ago, when Pei Yanran's mother was in power, she forced Pei Jingxing's father off the board. The two branches have barely had contact since. To put it bluntly, there was bad blood between them." I gripped my phone, my thoughts racing. Zhu Jingyan and Pei Yanran's cousin, those two together. "Can you find out what he's been doing lately?" "Yes, we're already looking into it, but he's very low profile. Nothing looks unusual on the surface. Keep watching him. Tell me the moment you learn anything." At 9:30 the next morning, I arrived at the orphanage entrance. I carried a hot latte, with sugar and milk, and an extra sandwich. I was half an hour early, so I sat waiting on a bench outside. At 9:50, a white Porsche pulled up outside. She wore a pink coat today, her hair in a high ponytail, with silver earrings. She got out. She saw the coffee and paper bag in my hands. "I brought a sandwich today, too. I was afraid you'd be hungry." She took the coffee and sandwich, then looked down at them. She said nothing, but the corner of her lips lifted. Without eating, she carried them in her hand and turned toward the courtyard. I followed her. The orphanage activities were much like yesterday. Reading picture books with the children, building blocks, and having snacks. She was completely absorbed the whole time, crouching on the floor and playing with the children. "Eat slowly. There's plenty more." I helped hand out fruit nearby, while keeping her in the corner of my eye. When snack time ended, the children were taken for their naps. She sat on a swing in the courtyard and finally unwrapped the sandwich. She took a bite. I sat on the swing beside her. "Yesterday, you told me to watch out for Zhu Jingyan." "Yes. You don't believe me." I pressed on. "What about that cousin of yours?" She froze mid-bite. After several seconds, she slowly swallowed. She didn't look at me. Her voice was unnaturally calm. "You looked into him?" "I didn't investigate him. Someone saw him meeting Zhu Jingyan." She was silent for a long time. A breeze drifted through, gently swaying the swings. Then she spoke. "Pei Jingxing is my uncle's son." Her voice was quiet, After my mother forced his father off the board 5 years ago, he decided our branch of the family owes him. I asked with concern, "Has he caused you trouble?" She didn't answer. She only turned her head and met my gaze. He wouldn't dare come at me openly, but if he joins forces with someone else, then anything is possible. My heart sank. She knew. She knew everything. You knew he would meet Zhu Jingyan. I didn't know they had met, but I guess they would. Zhu Jingyan hates me. Pei Jingxing hates me too. To people who hate me getting together, they can't be planning my birthday party. Her tone almost made me laugh, but I couldn't. What are you going to do? Nothing. She wrapped up the half-eaten sandwich again. If they want to come after me, they'd better be capable of it. She said it casually, as if neither of them mattered. But I noticed the fingers gripping the paper bag tightened slightly. I opened my mouth, about to speak, when my phone suddenly vibrated in my pocket. I took it out and looked. It was a message from Tang Qiu. "Mr. Jiang, we found something. Pei Jingxing registered a new company 3 days ago. The legal representative is someone you don't know, but after tracing the ownership, he is the ultimate beneficiary. That new company submitted a letter of intent to Pei Entertainment yesterday to acquire part of the business. He wants to buy one of Pei Entertainment's divisions. That division handles all your performance bookings through several subsidiaries." I stared at the screen, my pupils narrowing slightly. I looked up at her. She was looking down at her own phone, her brow slightly furrowed. Clearly, she had received the same news. After reading it, she lowered her phone, then looked at me. She gave a faint smile. "Jiang Chen, are you busy this afternoon?" "No." I shook my head. "Then come somewhere with me." "Where?" She stood up, brushing imaginary dust from her clothes. Her lips curved into a smile. "We're going to see my dear cousin, of course." Before I could answer, she had already turned and walked toward the car by the entrance. Pei Yanran suddenly turned back to me. "What are you waiting for? Let's go." I quickly went around and got into the passenger seat. The car pulled straight out. The wind swept loose strands of hair from beside her ear. I glanced at her from the corner of my eye. Her expression was calm. Too calm, even. "What will you say to him?" "Say what?" "Say I know about the little schemes he's been pulling behind our backs." She gave a faint smile. "I won't say anything." I was confused. "What do you mean?" "He registered a new company and submitted a letter of intent to acquire. Those are legal business moves. If I storm in and confront him, he'll turn it around on me. He'll say I'm a narrow-minded cousin who can't stand family doing business." She paused. "So I won't discuss the acquisition with him. Then why are we going to see him?" She glanced at me, her lips curving slightly. "We're going to bring him a gift." "A gift?" "Yes, to congratulate him on opening his company." I froze for a moment, then suddenly understood what she was planning. I leaned back in my seat and smiled too. "You really are, really quite devious." She didn't respond, but her smile deepened. The car stopped outside a new office building. I looked up. The building stood directly across from Pei Entertainment headquarters, separated only by a street. Right opposite Pei Entertainment's chairman's office windows. Choosing this location was an open provocation. She got out, took an elegant gift bag from the trunk, and headed straight into the lobby. The receptionist froze when she saw her. "Miss Pei, what brings you here?" Pei Yanran smiled warmly and gracefully. "I'm here to see my cousin. I heard his new company has opened, so I came to congratulate him." The receptionist hesitated, but called upstairs. After hanging up, the receptionist looked conflicted. "Mr. Pei will see you upstairs, on the 16th floor." Pei Yanran thanked her with a smile, then carried the gift bag toward the elevator. I followed her in. The moment the elevator doors closed, the gentle smile vanished from her lips. That was quite an act back there. An act of what? Like the perfect little cousin. She said nothing, but in the elevator door's reflection, I saw a flash of coldness in her eyes. The elevator reached the 16th floor. At the end of the hall was a lavishly decorated office. Its door was half open. She pushed it open and walked in. Pei Jingxing looked to be in his early 30s, with shrewdness in his eyes. When he saw Pei Yanran enter, his face immediately broke into a smile. He rose to greet her. "Yanran, why are you here? You should have told me beforehand. I could have arranged something." His smile was overly enthusiastic, so obviously fake. Pei Yanran smiled too, her smile even more genuine than his. "Cousin, starting a new company is such a big deal. Yet you didn't even tell me. I had to hear about it from someone else." So, I came especially to offer my congratulations. She set the gift bag on his desk. Her movements gentle. Her poise elegant. You're too kind. It's just a small operation. Nothing worth making a fuss over. A small operation. This decor, this location. It doesn't look small scale to me. Cousin, you look like you're building something big. Not at all. It can't compare to the scale of Pei Entertainment. His gaze suddenly fell on me, as if he had only just noticed I was there. And this is my friend, Jiang Chen. Pei Yanran introduced me casually, as though I were nobody important. When Pei Jingxing heard my name, his eyes shifted almost imperceptibly, but quickly returned to normal. Mr. Jiang. He held out his hand. I've heard so much about you. An international musician. It's an honor. I shook his hand. You're too kind, Mr. Pei. He gave me another look, his eyes measuring and scrutinizing me. He withdrew his hand and turned back to Pei Yanran. Yanran, you don't look well lately. His face became a mask of concern. Have you been staying up late again? Your health comes first. Don't push yourself too hard. I'm fine. He seemed to suddenly recall something. Oh, right. I heard you've been spending a lot of time with the Zhu family lately. My chest tightened. He brought it up himself. The smile on Pei Yanran's face did not change at all. Cousin, you certainly hear things quickly. The circle is only so big. It's hard not to hear things. I noticed. His eyes briefly flicked across my face. The Zhu family is quite prominent in Jing City. When dealing with them, it never hurts to stay alert. It sounded like well-meant advice, but I could hear it. He was signaling to Pei Yanran. I know who you're dealing with. And he was also signaling. I know the man beside you has ties to the Zhu family too. Pei Yanran didn't respond to his bait. She merely smiled and nodded. You're right, cousin. Then I won't keep you from your work. Let's have dinner sometime. With that, she turned and left. I followed her. When we reached the door, I looked back. Pei Jingxing was standing behind his desk. The smile had vanished entirely from his face. His eyes were as sinister as a winter blade. The moment the elevator doors closed, I let out a long breath. Did you feel that? He isn't trying to wage a business war against you. He's here to tell you that he knows what you're doing and who you're with. Pei Yanran said nothing, but her fingers curled slightly. We left the lobby and returned to her car. She didn't start it right away. Instead, she leaned back in her seat, staring through the windshield at the top floor windows of Pei Entertainment headquarters. That was her office. He deliberately opened his company across from mine, so every time I look up, I'll see his sign. Do you know what he wants? She was silent for a moment, then said something that sent a chill down my spine. He wants what my mother did to his father years ago, driving him off the board, to happen all over again. Except this time, I'll be the one driven out. The car fell silent for several seconds. Then I asked, what are you going to do? She turned to me and smiled, then started the car. I leaned back in the passenger seat, watching her calm profile from the corner of my eye. This woman was more complicated than I'd imagined. She didn't need me to protect her. What she needed was someone by her side. So, when she made her move, I wouldn't hold her back. That night, I returned to my apartment and sat on the sofa. Over and over, I replayed the scenes from Pei Jingxing's office that day. His words, Zhu Jingyan seems interested in that friend of yours lately, kept echoing in my ears. Pei Jingxing hadn't said it casually. He'd said it deliberately for Pei Yanran to hear. He was telling her, I know who's by your side, and I know who wants to come after you. I picked up my phone and sent Tang Qiu a message. Look into this for me. How did Zhu Jingyan and Pei Jingxing meet? When did they meet? Did anyone introduce them? A few minutes later, Tang Qiu replied, Received. By the way, Mr. Jiang, there's something I forgot to tell you. While you were out this afternoon, someone delivered a package to your apartment. The sender was listed as Miss Su. I stared at the screen, my pupils narrowing. Zhu Jingyan knew my home address. Before I could reply, a second message popped up. I didn't open the package. I left it beneath the shoe cabinet by your door. I got up and went to the door. Sure enough, there was a small cardboard box beneath the shoe cabinet. I crouched down and opened the package. Inside was a black velvet box. When I lifted the lid, a pair of cufflinks lay inside. A card was tucked beneath them. The flowers that night were trampled. Let these cufflinks make up for them. I hope you'll be wearing them when we next meet. Zhu Jingyan. I stared at that card for a long time. She'd sent me cufflinks. Pei Jingxing had brought her up in front of Pei Yanran. These two, one in the open, the other in the shadows, seemed to be joining forces in a game of chess. And the pieces on the board weren't just Pei Yanran and me. I closed the box and set it on the coffee table. Then I replied to Tang Qiu. I know about the package. Keep digging into Pei Jingxing. The more detail, the better. I put down my phone and leaned back on the sofa, closing my eyes. The next morning, I arrived at the orphanage 40 minutes early. I still carried a hot latte and a sandwich, but that day, I'd done one more thing. I'd had Tang Qiu compile overnight a detailed file on Pei Jingxing. It was printed and sealed in a manila envelope. When she parked by the entrance, she saw the envelope in my hand and raised an eyebrow. What's that? Your cousin's resume. I handed her the envelope. I had Tang Qiu investigate all night. How many companies he owns, where his money comes from, and everyone he has met in the past 3 months. It's all in there. She took the envelope, but didn't open it right away. Instead, she looked up at me. Why are you investigating him? Because he's coming after you, and I can't let you fight him alone. She looked at me, holding that thick file in her hands. She was silent for 2 or 3 seconds, then slipped the envelope into her bag. The corner of her mouth twitched. Thanks. Her voice was quiet, but I heard it. At the orphanage that day, as she played games with the children, she seemed more relaxed than before. I sat on a nearby bench, unwrapping and eating my sandwich. The swings creaked back and forth. Sunlight streamed through the leaves. The air carried the scent of sunshine and cookies. I watched her crouch on the ground, guiding a little girl through a puzzle, hand over hand. Her ponytail swayed with every movement. She wasn't the person I remembered, but little by little, I was getting to know her again. That afternoon, she didn't mention Pei Jingxing or ask why I was helping her. She only waited until I was leaving, standing at the orphanage entrance, to say, "Will you come again tomorrow?" "I will." "Then bring me an iced Americano." I froze for a moment. "Don't you dislike iced drinks?" She tilted her head, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Didn't you say you'd slowly learn my habits?" With that, she turned and got into her car. I stood at the orphanage entrance, smiling for several seconds. Then I took out my phone and messaged her. "I'll bring you an iced one tomorrow." She didn't reply, but I saw her white Porsche pause at the intersection, before turning and disappearing. Through the window, I vaguely saw her looking down at her phone. After returning from the orphanage that day, I sat in my apartment and went over Pei Jingxing's file 3 times from beginning to end. Tang Qiu was meticulous. Besides company registration details and financial records, he had also included a record of Pei Jingxing's movements over the past 3 months, whom he'd met, which events he'd attended, even which restaurant he'd visited one night to entertain clients was all listed in detail. I stared at one entry, and my finger stopped. 3 months ago, at a private equestrian club on the outskirts of Jingxi, Pei Jingxing met Zhu Jingyan's father, Zhu Mingyuan. The meeting lasted about 40 minutes. Zhu Mingyuan, Zhu Jingyan's father. I read that entry again, then picked up my phone and called Tang Qiu. That meeting between Pei Jingxing and Zhu Mingyuan. What did they discuss? Can you find out? Tang Qiu was silent for 2 seconds. Mr. Jiang, at that level, the details would never get out. But I can tell you one thing. Not long after that meeting, one of Zhu Mingyuan's companies injected funds into Pei Jingxing's new company. It wasn't a large amount, only a tiny fraction of its registered capital. I frowned at that. You mean the Zhu family is backing him? Yes, you could put it that way. I ended the call and leaned back on the sofa, thinking for a long time. Pei Jingxing had brought the Zhu family into this. Zhu Jingyan and I had bad blood between us. Zhu Mingyuan couldn't possibly be unaware. His willingness to invest in Pei Jingxing meant he wasn't merely standing up for his daughter. He himself also wanted to see Pei Jingxing go head-to-head with Pei Yanran. This force was bigger than I'd imagined. Meanwhile, Pei Yanran still sat across the chessboard, waiting for her opponent to make the first move. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out into the night. She could afford to wait. I couldn't. Early the next morning, I didn't go to the orphanage. I went somewhere else. St. John's Church on Jingxi's western outskirts. It was the first time I could remember coming here willingly. Those vague images before had all been triggered against my will. I pushed open the door and went inside. The church was empty, except for someone seated in the front row, an old woman dressed in black, her head bowed in prayer. I quietly walked to the back and sat down, trying to search my mind for memories of this place. but I couldn't remember a thing. Just as I was about to leave, an elderly voice called from behind me. "You're Chen, aren't you?" I turned and saw an old man in a gray shirt standing in the doorway. "And you are?" "I'm the caretaker here. My surname is Joe." The old man came over. "You looked familiar." Then I remembered seeing you before. "You remember me?" My heart stirred. "I do. 5 years ago. You held your wedding here." Caretaker Joe sat beside me. "What do you want to know?" "That wedding. What time did it start and end?" "From 3 in the afternoon until 8 that night. I was on duty." "That afternoon, the bride and groom arrived together." "What happened next?" "The ceremony began at 6 that evening. The church was filled with white lilies. The moment the bride appeared, everyone fell silent. You were so nervous, kid, you could barely get the words out." The man paused. "Then, the platform collapsed. My blood ran cold. Without any warning, the entire main platform gave way. The bride was closest to you. Her first instinct was to throw herself over you to protect you. You only suffered scrapes, but afterward, you both passed out. When the ambulance arrived, the doctor said neither of you was seriously hurt. You both passed out from the shock, and then, both of you were carried into the ambulance. I saw you off at the door. What happened after that?" "After that? I don't know." Caretaker Joe rose to his feet. "For what happened afterward?" He patted my shoulder. "You'll have to ask the people around you. I'm just the caretaker." I rushed out of the church, pulling out my phone as I walked. "Thank you," answered quickly. "Thank you. About Yanran and me. You know what happened, don't you?" The line went silent for 5 seconds. "What do you mean?" "The last time Pei Yanran and I saw each other." Tang Qiu's breathing grew heavier. "At the airport. She was taken away by force. Then you passed out and woke up with amnesia." He was silent for a long time. "After the accident at the wedding, the Pei family arranged for her to go to England. We all thought he couldn't bring himself to continue." "Thought what? Say it." "We thought she chose a better life and wanted nothing more to do with you." I laughed. It was a cold laugh. "You all thought that?" "Yes." "Then why didn't any of you tell me?" Tang Qiu didn't answer. One demanded angrily. "Why?" "Because no one wanted you to get hurt again. You were unconscious in the hospital all night that day, calling her name the entire time. None of us could bear to make you remember her again." Tang Qiu's voice had gone hoarse too. I took a deep breath. "Then what?" "Then, a few days later, your father took you home. Later, your father told you that Pei Yanran had left, gone to England. You had no reaction at all. The doctor said extreme emotional distress had caused you to faint and lose your memory. 5 years. I closed my eyes. Everyone had kept it from me. I opened my eyes, fixed my gaze on the road ahead, and drove toward Jiang Corporation. I stepped on the gas. The car shot through Jiang Corporation's entrance. The young receptionist froze when she saw me. "Mr. Jiang?" I didn't stop. The elevator doors closed, and I pressed the button for the top floor. I pushed open the door to Jiang Jiwan's office. For 5 years, everyone had lied to me, and I knew nothing. My father sat behind his desk reading documents. When he looked up and saw me, the pen in his hand stilled. "Chen, what are you doing here?" I didn't sit down. I got straight to the point. "You planned the wedding yourself. Your name was listed as the witness, and every payment bore your signature. So, when I forgot Pei Yanran, why didn't you ever mention her?" He set down his pen, leaned back in his chair, and looked at me for a long time. "You know everything now." Jiang Jiwan briefly closed his eyes. "After the wedding accident, she was put on a plane. Her mother personally led the people who took her. I thought she'd chosen a better life instead of you." It felt as though all the air had been sucked from the room. "When you woke up, you remembered nothing. The doctor said extreme emotional distress had caused traumatic amnesia. I thought it was heaven's mercy to you." "Mercy?" I couldn't keep my voice down anymore. "You took 5 years of her sacrifice. For betrayal and abandonment, she went to England as the price of saving Jiang Corporation from collapse. Every influential supporter in your career was brought to you by her. You thought she abandoned me, when she was actually carrying this entire family for you." The office door was pushed open. Song Whelan stood in the doorway, staring at my face. She set down the tea in her hand. "Chen, calm down." "Mom, when you saw her, your smile froze. You were polite, but distant, as if she were a stranger. Don't you feel guilty?" Pei Yanran left without a word, while you lay unconscious, calling her name. I hated Pei Yanran for abandoning you. I hated her for 5 years. She didn't abandon me. Her mother took her away by force. That day at the airport, she turned back and shouted for me to wait for her. Then she was dragged onto the plane. I watched them take her away with my own eyes. Then I woke up and remembered nothing. Song Hulin's gaze wavered. What you saw as betrayal and abandonment was her sacrifice. She carried the burden for all of you in England for 5 years. All of you hated her for 5 years, while I never even had the chance to hate her, because I couldn't even remember her name. Jiang Jiwan gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles white. The silence was heavier than anything. Tang Qiu stood outside, too afraid to enter. Her eyes rimmed red. I turned to look at her. Tang Qiu drew a breath. After the wedding accident, both you and Pei Yanran were carried into ambulances. When she passed out, she kept hold of your hand, only letting go at the hospital. You only had scrapes, and woke up soon after. Her injuries were more serious. You stayed by her bedside all night. When she woke, you held each other for a long time. Later, her mother arrived with a group of people and took her straight from the hospital. Then you chased them to the airport. You know what happened after that? We all thought she didn't want you anymore. We couldn't bear to make you remember her again. We only wanted to protect you. Protect me. My voice caught in my throat. You protected someone who remembered nothing. And out there, she carried everything for the man who remembered nothing for 5 years. Chen. I turned and headed for the door. Song Huilin tried to stop me, but I walked straight out. As the car left Jiang Corporation, I called Tang Qiu. Find out where she is. Right now. President Jiang. Miss Pei is at the orphanage. I turned the wheel and drove toward the orphanage. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Tang Qiu. I glanced at it, then turned off the screen. There was only one place I needed to be. When I found her at the orphanage, she was crouched on the lawn, braiding a little girl's hair. When she turned and saw me, her smile froze for a second, then vanished. That familiar expression took its place. Why are you here? I went to see my father. Her eyes narrowed slightly. 5 years ago, my father thought you chose to leave me, so he kept it from me for 5 years. My mother hated you for 5 years. Pei Yanran's lashes trembled. You finally know. Her eyes reddened, as if she were barely holding herself together. In England, I watched videos of your performances every day. You played Old Dream at Vienna's Golden Hall. That was the piece I chose. 5 years have passed. You missed the best 5 years of my life. I pulled her tightly into my arms. After a long while, she raised her head. 5 years ago, you told me I would be the only woman you'd ever marry. I've remembered that for 5 years. Did you forget that too? Fragments of memory came crashing back. In the church, I was so nervous, I could barely speak. She walked out wearing a white veil, and everyone fell silent. I remember. I said you were the love of my life. I said I'd marry no one but you. She smiled, her eyes curving with it. Then she kissed me, softly and briefly. I tightened my grip on her hand and kissed her back. Yanran, don't leave me again. We'll stay together for the rest of our lives. All right. She buried her face in my shoulder. Her voice muffled. I've waited to hear you say that. For 5 years. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Tang Qiu. President Jiang. Pei Jingxing's letter of intent to acquire has officially entered the review process. Zhu Mingyuan has increased his investment to 3 times the previous amount. Pei Entertainment has called an emergency board meeting. She lifted her head from my shoulder and saw my phone screen. Pei Jingxing is getting desperate. Tripling the investment means he either found a bigger backer or wants to muddy the waters before the formal review. She released my shirt and looked up at me. How do you know that? The file on Pei Jingxing I gave you. I kept a copy too. I've studied it closely these past few days. She froze for a second, then smiled. Since when did you become so proactive? Since you told me, tomorrow at 10. Her lips curved again. This time, it was not tentative. It was certain, as if she'd finally confirmed something. I have a plan for next week's board meeting, but right now, she reached out and took my fingers, holding them tightly, just as she had gripped my hand at the hospital 5 years ago. Right now, I only want to be with you. Her fingers remained wrapped around mine. Neither did I let go. That night, she pulled me onto a bench outside the orphanage. Pei Jingxing wants to muddy the waters at the emergency board meeting. Then I'll let him. wallow in his own mess. Acquiring the subsidiary is only his first step. His true goal is control of Pay Entertainment. How can you be sure? Because he set up his company right across from mine. Someone who only wants to buy a subsidiary wouldn't pay that rent for an office. He's declaring war, not doing business. How will you expose him? She shook her head gently. I won't expose him. I'll let him expose himself. Do you still have the file Tang Qiu gave you? I nodded. I do. She gave me a gentle smile. Good. In a few days. I need you by my side. A few days later, in the top-floor conference room at Pay Entertainment headquarters, I arrived early. Tang Qiu stood beside me, holding a stack of documents. She looked nervous, but her eyes shone with excitement. President Jiang, I've waited 3 months for today's show. I said nothing, my fingers gripping Pei Jingxing's file. Every money trail in it, every investment, every time and place they met. I had memorized them all. This was a knife. Today, I would put it in her hand. Just then, the board members filed in. Pei Jingxing was the last to enter. When he saw me, a flicker of scrutiny crossed his eyes, but he quickly concealed it. Yanran, it's been a long time. You look much better. Have a seat. The board meeting began. Pei Jingxing spoke first. Everyone, a few days ago, I submitted a letter of intent to acquire one of Pay Entertainment's subsidiaries responsible for performance coordination. Yanran, you should have seen the contents of the letter. This acquisition will benefit Pay Entertainment. The subsidiary will operate more efficiently on its own, and it will ease the parent company's financial pressure. Pei Yanran said nothing. She merely watched him, the corner of her lips slightly raised. Pei Jingxing, I've reviewed your letter of intent. There's one small problem. The legal representative of the acquiring entity you submitted is Zhou Wei. But after tracing the ownership structure, the ultimate beneficiary is you. The conference room fell silent. Pei Yanran set the document on the table. Pei Jingxing picked it up and glanced at it. His smile began to stiffen. That's only a technicality. It doesn't affect the substance of the acquisition. Pei Yanran ignored him. Second question. Who is the strategic investor? Sweat trickled down Pei Jingxing's temple. It involves confidential business information. It cannot be disclosed. Pei Yanran smiled. You don't need to disclose it. I've already found out. To companies under Zhu Mingyuan's name, jointly provided the funding. Pei Jingxing's expression changed. People in the room began murmuring. Pei Yanran picked up the third document. Her voice remained even. Third question. The addendum to Clause 3 of your letter of intent. Once the acquisition is complete, the buyer has the right to conduct asset restructuring and adjust the target company's business direction. What exactly does that asset restructuring include? Pei Jingxing didn't answer. The conference room went completely silent. I watched the scene coldly from the side. He wasn't trying to buy the subsidiary. He wanted to acquire a 15% stake, then use that stake as leverage to pry control of all Pay Entertainment into his hands. Pei Jingxing rose to his feet. You think this little evidence can stop me? Pei Yanran remained seated at the head of the table. You think I only have these 3 documents? Pei Jingxing's gaze suddenly tightened. Tang Qiu handed over the stack of documents in her hands to Pei Yanran. Then she walked to the door and pushed it open. 2 people stood outside. One was a lawyer. The other was an auditor. Since last week, they've conducted a full compliance review of your company. Their findings include irregular financial transactions, concealment of acquisition terms by the actual controller, and suspected bad faith acquisition practices. And one more thing. She paused and looked at me. I walked to Pei Yanran's side. The last trace of Pei Jingxing's smile shattered completely. When you forced my father out of the board, I told you then. Sooner or later, you pay the price. A flicker of impatience crossed Pei Yanran's face. My mother forced your father off the board because he embezzled 30 million yuan in company funds, and he falsified the books for 3 years. You don't actually think your father was framed, do you? He wasn't framed. He was removed because he broke the law. My mother chose not to press criminal charges. She even left my uncle a way out. Yet you call that an injustice. So you nursed that hatred for 5 years and plotted all of this. Then let me tell you this. Everything you've done has been in vain. Pei Jingxing's pupils constricted sharply. How do you know? When my mother cleaned up the board, she kept complete audit records. I've read every one of them. She turned to look at the other directors. Everyone. The background of Pei Jingxing, the acquiring party's actual controller, and every issue with the letter of intent. are already laid out before you. Now, please cast your votes. The oldest director spoke. The acquisition proposal is rejected. Initiate a compliance investigation. No one objected. Jingxing stood in the middle of the conference room. Like a broken blade, the darkness remained in his eyes, but his edge had dulled. He looked at me, then at Yanran. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then he turned and headed for the door. At the door, he paused. He looked back at Yanran. You think this is over? Yanran didn't look at him. You deliberately opened your company across from mine. Now, whenever I look up at your sign, all I see is a wall full of violations. Jingxing left. The conference room door closed. The tension in the air eased. All 7 directors were looking at Yanran. Their eyes held something I'd never seen before. It wasn't fear. It was respect. Yanran and I walked out of Entertainment headquarters. Across the street stood Jingxing's company. Its sign still gleamed in the sunlight reflected by the glass facade. The large words read, Jingxing Cultural Media. It was so new, as if it had been put up yesterday. Staring at the sign, I said grimly, once the compliance investigation begins, he'll either liquidate or sell it off and run. There is no third option. The corner of her lips lifted. That sign will be gone within 3 days. Then, whenever I look up, she turned to look at me. All I'll see is the sky. Her eyes held nothing but tenderness. Yanran walked out of the building. When she saw me, her lips curved upward. You're here. I handed her the latte. She took it and looked down at it. No sugar. I remembered. She smiled, cradling the cup. Her fingers brushed its side. You finally remembered. Thank you called. Brother. The compliance investigation results are all in. Jingxing's bad faith acquisition has been confirmed. His company accounts have been frozen. Zhu Mingyuan's investment has been returned. He's liquidating overnight and fleeing. Zhu Jingyan has also pulled out of every partnership. She issued a statement cutting ties. Yanran gave a quiet laugh after hearing that. His teeth were knocked out long ago. Yet he still tried for one final bite. I looked at the now empty facade across the street. You were right. When we look up, there's only sky left. She turned to me, her eyes soft. I continued. But there are still 2 things left to do. My mother hated her for 5 years. Her mother kept her away for 5 years. After returning to the Jiang family home, Song Whelan sat in the living room, holding a cup of tea. I had to settle the first one. Mom, I need to tell you something. Without even looking at me, my mother said, you're here to speak for her again. I'm not speaking for her. I'm telling you the truth. 5 years ago, she didn't leave willingly. Her mother forced her to leave. At the airport that day, she looked back and shouted for me to wait for her. Then she was dragged onto the plane. I ran after her and passed out. When I woke up, I couldn't remember anything. Song Whelan froze, her teacup suspended in midair. What? You thought she abandoned me. So, you hated her for 5 years. But she never abandoned me. She kept the Jiang group afloat in Britain for 5 years. She paved the way for me. She took the blows meant for me. You always thought she chose to leave. But she was sent away. Song Whelan's hand tightened around her teacup. I hated the wrong person. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes at once. I only saw her leave. You called her name all night. I thought she didn't want you anymore. I hated her for 5 years. I don't want you to hate her. My voice choked up, too. Tomorrow, I'll bring her home for dinner. Song Whelan wiped her tears. She nodded. All right. Qinghuan emerged from the study. His fists were clenched tight. He was silent for a long time. She kept the Jiang group afloat for 5 years. Yet I never even thanked her. I personally arranged that wedding back then. My name was written in the witness line. But after the wedding went wrong, I kept it from you for 5 years. I thought I was protecting you. But I was really just running away. He took a box from beside him. I should have given this to you sooner. This is my fault. He opened the box. Inside were photographs from the wedding 5 years ago. And a videotape. The cover read June 8th, St. John's Church. I put in the tape. On screen, she wore a white wedding dress, holding lilies as she walked toward me one step at a time. On screen, I was so nervous, I could barely get the words out. The whole room laughed. She laughed, too. Then she ran toward me and threw herself into my arms. Everyone cheered. Applause filled the room. On screen, I only knew to hold her and grin foolishly. Tears streamed down my face. The memories came rushing back. But this time, they weren't fragments. They were whole scenes. The memories buried deepest inside me had finally broken free. That afternoon, Pei Yanran received a call. She froze for seconds before answering. Mom, I saw what happened at the board meeting. You handled it better than I did back then. 5 years ago, when I sent you away, I thought I was protecting you. During those 5 years in Britain, you took every path I laid out for you and made it your own. That boy, Chen, I used to think he wasn't good enough for you, but I've learned a great deal these past 5 years. I know this is the man you chose for yourself. No one can stop you. Pei Yanran's voice trembled slightly. Mom, you finally said it. Mrs. Pei paused on the other end. I owe you more than an apology. From now on, you'll make your own decisions about the Pei family business. I won't make any decisions for you again. You've proven that you can do better than I did. Pei Yanran hung up. She stood by the window for a long time. She didn't even notice me come in. After a long while, she turned, saw me, and smiled. My mom said, "You're worthy." She also said she won't make decisions for me anymore. She said I can already do better than she did. I walked over and pulled her into my arms. Those words were what she'd waited 5 years to hear. They did more for her than any apology could. The next day, I brought Pei Yanran to the Jiang family home. Song Whelan stood at the door, studying Pei Yanran intently. Yanran, I hated you for 5 years. I thought you left because you didn't want a Chen anymore. But a Chen told me that you looked back at the airport and shouted, "Wait for me." Song Whelan stepped forward and took Pei Yanran's hands. Yanran, I was wrong. Some of the pain you suffered these past 5 years was caused by me. I didn't know you had been paving the way for him. I'm sorry. Pei Yanran's tears silently slid down her cheeks. Yanran, I owe you two a wedding. The one I arranged for you 5 years ago was never completed. Let me arrange another one for you. This time, we'll see it through. Okay. On the day of the wedding, at St. John's Church, old Joe stood at the entrance, watching us walk in. You finally come back. I've waited here for 5 years. Every day before opening the doors, I'd look at that repaired platform, thinking that one day, you'd return. Standing on the platform, my voice still choked with nerves. 5 years ago, I was too nervous to speak. This time, I only have one thing to say. Pei Yanran, you're the only woman I'll ever marry. This time, I won't let anyone take you away from me. She smiled, with tears in her eyes. I only have one thing to say to Chen. I've waited for you for 5 years. And now, I finally don't have to wait anymore. When we finished speaking, we exchanged rings. The rings they never got to exchange 5 years ago were finally on their fingers. Song Whelan sat in the pews, her tears flowing endlessly, but the smile on her lips was more genuine than it had been 5 years ago. Pei Yanran's mother sat on the other side. She said nothing. She only watched her daughter in her white wedding dress. Holding her hand, I asked, "What do you see when you look up now?" She looked up toward the other side of the street, the sky, and our happy future. On the first morning of our marriage, I opened my eyes. Sunlight slipped through a crack in the curtains. I reached out, but the other side of the bed was empty. Panic gripped me. I shot upright. I ran barefoot out of the bedroom. There was no one in the living room or kitchen. Then I saw the balcony. She was sitting in a wicker chair. Morning light spilled over her hair. She held a cup of hot water, staring blankly into the distance. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. You scared me to death. My sudden move made her laugh. She leaned back into my arms. I'm just used to getting up early. During those 5 years in Britain, I woke up like this every day. Why did you get up so early? To wait for you. Wait for what? For videos of your performances to be posted. For your new albums to come out. To hear you play that melody from Old Dream. She paused. Her voice was as soft as mist. The first thing I did every morning was look for where you were. Hearing that, it truly hurt. But it warmed me too. For 5 years, she woke every day looking for me, while I couldn't even remember her name. I lowered my head and kissed the top of her hair. From now on, the first thing you do when you wake up won't be looking for me, because I'll be sleeping right beside you. She said nothing, but her fingers tightened around my cuff. She gave a soft hum. In the kitchen, I made her a bowl of porridge. She held the bowl and drank it in small sips. Then I suddenly remembered what Qinghuan had said. For a long time in Britain, she'd survived on nutritional drinks. Watching her drink the porridge, my heart ached and softened. Drink slowly, Don't rush. She looked up at me. The corner of her lips lifted. With you watching me, how could I rush? Fine. I won't watch. I turned and pretended to look out the window. But from the corner of my eye, I kept watching her bowl. She finished her porridge and sighed in satisfaction. My phone rang. It was a message from Tang Qiu. Congratulations, Brother Chen. Congratulations on your marriage. Are you up yet? Did you sleep well last night? How is Miss Pei feeling? What did she have for breakfast? I didn't reply to a single one. Then another message came right after. Oh, and Mr. Jiang, you have a performance in Shenzhen next Wednesday. Miss Pei booked your schedule for 3 years. Now that you're married, should we adjust that arrangement? I handed my phone to Pei Yanran. You booked me for 3 years of performances. So, what happens now? She read the message and smiled. Can you really refund a performance your wife paid for? I sighed helplessly. So, you're keeping me like a pet now? She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling with smug delight. I paid 5.2 million yuan to have you play Old Dream once. Now I've booked all 3 years. Wouldn't you call that a bargain? How many performances is that over 3 years? She did the math. A little over 40, probably. That averages less than 150,000 yuan per show. Your value has gone up, but I got the early bird price. When did you learn to talk business like that? I learned while managing the company in Britain. I had to learn how to balance the books. She paused, and her voice softened. But I chose those performances carefully. Every venue, every set list, and every seating layout. I reviewed them all. You reviewed them? Yes, when I was in Britain. Before every performance, I received a venue report. Only after confirming the lights, sound system, and safety measures were all in place. Would I sign off on it? She looked at me, her voice growing softer again. I couldn't be on stage with you, but I could make sure that whenever you stepped on stage, everything was the very best. Over 3 years and more than 40 performances. I thought it was all luck. But behind every show, there had been someone checking every lighting cable for me, every screw in every speaker. Then why didn't you come see me then? She reached out and touched my face. My mother didn't understand you back then. One condition of her investment in the Jiang family business was that I couldn't see you. My heart aching, I gathered her tightly in my arms. Just then, another message from Tang Qiu came through. Mr. Jiang, please reply to me. Stop getting lost in newlywed bliss. Just tell me, is the Shenzhen show happening or not? Pei Yanran took my phone and sent a voice message. The Shenzhen performance will proceed as scheduled. Also, starting next month, all future performance contracts will be handled as a husband and wife package. Jiang Chen's performance fee remains unchanged, but Pei Entertainment will no longer handle them separately. All contracts will be signed directly through Jiang Chen's studio. Tang Qiu replied instantly. Understood. Miss Pei is brilliant. Then I won't disturb you two during your newlywed bliss. Pei Yanran returned my phone, her lips still curved in a smile. Your assistant is pretty amusing. He just talks too much. But he's reliable. I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let him stay by your side. You arranged for Tang Qiu to be with me. She didn't answer directly. She only said, do you think an ordinary music school graduate could go from playing small bars to the international stage, all on his own? So that was it. She had been behind every stroke of luck I had. Come on, let's go somewhere. Where? At the orphanage entrance. The little girl with pigtails cried, Big sister's here, and ran over first. She wrapped her arms around Pei Yanran's leg, then saw me, her eyes widening. Big sister, who is this man? Pei Yanran crouched down and stroked the little girl's head. He's my husband. The little girl looked even more shocked. A husband means you're married? Yes, we're married. The girl looked at Pei Yanran, then at me, then tilted her head and asked, Big sister, why has your hair turned white? Pei Yanran froze for a second. My heart clenched as I stood beside her. She answered with a smile. Because I waited too long for someone. My hair turned white from the worry. The little girl asked seriously, then you won't have to wait anymore. He's right beside you now. Will your hair turn black again? I think so. He said he'd dye it black for me. Then it'll be beautiful once it's dyed. I crouched down to meet the girl's eyes. It definitely will. Big sister is already beautiful. The little girl giggled, then ran off to announce it to the other children. Big sister got married. Her husband is so handsome. The courtyard erupted at once. The children crowded around me, firing questions from every direction. What do you do? Can you play the flute? Can you teach us to play? Pei Yanran stood beside us, watching, her smiling eyes curving into crescents. That afternoon, after the children went down for their nap, Pei Yanran and I sat on the swing in the courtyard. It's been a long time since things were this peaceful. During those 5 years in England, I was busy every day. The company, board meetings, coordinating performances, and reading your messages every day. I turned to look at her. You don't need to read them now. I'm right here beside you. She closed her eyes briefly. It's a habit. It'll take time to change. Then take it slowly. There's no rush. Oh, right? There's one more thing I haven't told you. What is it? I've always supported this orphanage. Not in the Pei Group's name, but in my own. I send money every month, along with supplies, clothes, books. When I was in England, I couldn't come myself, but the money never stopped coming. These children are just like you. Their families decided their fate for them. I don't want them to be like you, waiting 5 years for an answer. I looked at her profile. Even while suffering herself, this woman was still shielding others from pain. Just then, footsteps sounded at the orphanage gate. I looked up. Zhu Jingyan stood at the entrance. She held a bag of toys, wearing an awkward smile. I'm here to make a donation. She looked at Pei Yanran, then at me, trying to sound natural. I heard this place needs supplies, so I brought some. Pei Yanran rose to her feet, her expression calm, though her gaze turned colder. Miss Su, here to make a donation. Yes. As for Pei Entertainment, I've cut all ties. I've issued a statement too. I have no further connection to Pei Jingxing. I'm sorry, Mr. Jiang, for what happened before. Miss Su, you don't need to come here in person to make a donation. A transfer would do. Did you come yourself so I could see your sincerity? Or so Chen could? I let the cufflinks slide. As for you joining forces with Pei Jingxing, I've already dealt with it. I've seen your statement too. But charity isn't public relations, Miss Su. Standing here with a bag of toys isn't kindness. It's a performance. Zhu Jingyan bit her lip, clutching the bag in her hand tighter. Pei Yanran looked at her for seconds, then turned and sat back on the swing. You can leave the things here, but don't come in person next time. Zhu Jingyan stood at the entrance, her face shifting from pale to ashen. When I didn't respond, she set the bag down and turned to leave. Her steps were twice as fast as when she'd arrived. The courtyard grew quiet again. Pei Yanran's usual calm returned to her voice. She won't come a second time. What you said just now was even harsher than at the board meeting. The board meeting was a battle. This was clearing the battlefield. You're this decisive even when you're cleaning up. I have to be. If you don't clear a battlefield thoroughly, someone will always think they still have a chance. She doesn't have a chance anymore. Not because of what you said, but because I chose you. She looked at me, and her eyes softened for a moment. Yes, I know. But she couldn't stop the corners of her lips from lifting. On the drive back, Pei Yanran suddenly frowned. I immediately looked at her. What's wrong? She pressed a hand to her stomach. My stomach feels a little off. It's nothing. I just had too many sweet things today. What sweets? I tensed up. Porridge isn't sweet, is it? She glanced at me. Not the porridge. You're so sweet. My stomach can't take it. Her words caught me completely off guard. My heart skipped a beat. Then I laughed. Pei Yanran, when did you learn to flirt? With her eyes closed, she said, when I was bored in England. I practiced by myself. I didn't respond. I reached over and gently rubbed her stomach, careful not to touch where her old injury was. Gentler. I eased my touch. When will your stomach fully recover? She didn't answer directly. She only said, it's much better than last year. Last year, even eating bread made me throw up. Being able to drink a bowl of porridge now is progress. Last year, even one bite of bread made her throw up. Pain clenched in my chest. What kind of life had that been? Alone in England, she ran the company and paved the way for me, all while battling anorexia. I didn't dare ask more. I simply kept rubbing her stomach, even more gently than before. She slowly relaxed, her breathing evening out. Thank you, Chen. No need to thank me. It's what a husband should do. The corner of her mouth lifted again. You're getting quite smooth with those words. I learned from you. It was evening when we returned to the apartment. She went to the bedroom to change, while I sat in the living room. Thank you, send another message. Mr. Jiang, the Shenzhen show next Wednesday. The venue has confirmed. The lighting and sound are all good. The venue report Yanran signed. I reviewed it too. Every item had notes marked in red. She even inspected the slope of the seating. That woman really cares about you. I replied to Tang Qiu with 2 words. Shut up. Tang Qiu replied instantly. All right. I set down my phone and walked to the bedroom door. It was open. Her back was to me. Her exposed waist incredibly slender. So thin it hurt to see. Then I noticed, on her lower back, a small scar. I didn't remember seeing it before. She turned around and noticed my gaze on her waist. An old injury. She tugged her shirt down. The stage collapsed on our wedding day. I threw myself over you to protect you, and a splinter of wood cut me. I walked over and gently lifted the edge of her shirt. The scar was small, but jagged and uneven. My fingers brushed it, and she trembled slightly. This scar is what you got for protecting me. Yes. Nothing like this will ever happen again. I won't let you get hurt for me again. She looked at me, her eyes faintly red. She reached up and touched my face. Okay. She took an old notebook from the wardrobe. Its cover was yellowed, its corners worn. She hesitated for a moment, then handed it to me. You might want to see this. I took it and opened it. The date was June 9th, 5 years ago. The day after she was put on that plane. It read, "Where is Chen today? He should still be in the hospital. Has he woken up? Does he remember me?" I turned to the second page. June 10th. He's been discharged. Tang Qiu said he's resting at home. He didn't mention me. He really has forgotten. I kept turning the pages. Every page followed the same format, a date. Where is Chen today? What did he do? How is he? Then, gradually, the entries changed. They began including news of my performances. He played Old Dream at Vienna's Golden Hall. I listened to it 3 times in my London apartment. He held a solo recital in Berlin. Moonlight was on the program. Moonlight is my favorite. He won gold at the Paris Music Festival. He has finally made it down the path I paved for him. I turned to the final pages. The handwriting grew faster, and more rushed, as if she were racing to write. The last page was dated last month. There was only one line. He finally played Old Dream. In front of me. He has finally come back. I closed the notebook, my throat tight with emotion. For 5 years, every day, every night, she'd been searching for me. I set the notebook down and looked at her. You wrote in it every day. She nodded. A habit. And it was the only thing I could do. I went over and pulled her into my arms. You don't have to write anymore. Starting today, I'll always be by your side. I know. But I won't throw this notebook away. It kept watch over me for 5 years. I have to keep it. Keep it. I want to read every page. She smiled. You finished reading it now. But there's one page you haven't seen. I froze. There is. From inside the notebook cover. She pulled out a sheet of paper, folded over several times. I've been writing this letter for 5 years. I wrote one part each year, but I could never finish the final part. I lowered my eyes to read the first part. Chen, if forgetting me will make you happy, then forget me. I don't want you to suffer because of me. The second part. Chen, if you remember me, come find me. I'm in Jing City, at Pay Entertainment, at the orphanage, anywhere you can see me. The third part. Chen, if you hate me, I'll accept it. Your hatred would at least mean you remember me. The space for the final part was blank. For the final part, I wanted to write, if you come back, then never leave again. But I never dared write it, because I wasn't sure whether you come back. I looked into her hesitant eyes, and wrote one line in that final blank space. I've come back. I'll never leave again. At last, her tears fell not in grief, but of release. She was letting go of every fear she'd carried for 5 years. Chen, now that you've written it, don't erase it. I won't erase it. Whatever I erase, I'll make it up to you. No amount could repay these tears. The price is too high. I wrapped an arm around her. Then don't let me erase it. She hugged me back. Outside, the sky darkened, but the lights inside were warm. Her white hair beneath the light looked like moonlight resting on her shoulders. As I watched her, I thought, white hair, scars, diaries, an unfinished letter. All were proof that she'd waited for me. And now, at last, I had the right to turn that proof into memories with my own hands. Back in the living room, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Tang Qiu. President Jiang, Jingxing's company has been liquidated, but there is still an offshore account under his name we haven't traced. The final transfer was sent to Jing City. We haven't identified the recipient. The amount is just enough to register a new company. I read the message, my brow tightening slightly. Jingxing still had a backup plan. Yanran saw my expression and asked, "What's wrong?" Jingxing may not be completely out yet. I handed her my phone. She glanced at the message, and her lips twitched, then let him come. She leaned against my shoulder, her tone calm. After all, I have you beside me now. Yet her fingers tightened around my sleeve, unwilling to let go. Jingxing's offshore transfer was traced by Qinghuan 3 days later. The recipient was a shell company, but Yanran had moved faster. The day before the funds arrived, she'd already had her lawyers freeze that account. Before Jingxing could draw his final blade, it had already been confiscated. Zhu Jingyan withdrew from every social circle connected to me. I did not wear the cufflinks, but I did not throw them away either. When Yanran saw the velvet box, she only said, "Keep them. You might use them someday." Consider it her final kindness to you. You don't even mind the things she gave me anymore. She smiled. When I crushed those flowers, I was fighting for you. Now, there is nothing left to compete over. You're already my husband. What is there to fight for? 1 month later, Tang Qiu finally learned the truth about everything. After learning the truth, he said in shock, "So all my promotions and raises over the past 5 years were approved by Miss Pei too." I couldn't help laughing. You finally know who your real boss is. 6 months later, Yanran had a full medical checkup. She was doing far better than before. As long as she maintained her current condition, she would be fine. When she returned with the report, her expression was calm. But I still saw her secretly breathe a sigh of relief. The day Mrs. Pei came to Jing City, Yanran went to meet her at the airport herself. 5 years earlier, she personally put her daughter on a plane. 5 years later, she flew here and stood at the arrival's gate. When she saw her daughter, her eyes reddened. "Yanran, what I owe you can't be made right with an apology." Mrs. Pei held out her hand. Yanran hesitated for 2 seconds, then took it. That evening, we sat on the balcony. She held that old notebook in her hands. The line I'd written was still on the last page. "I've come back. I'll never leave again." She turned to that page, her finger pausing for a moment. Then she smiled. "Your handwriting is terrible." A flute melody drifted from afar. It was from the speaker I'd left on. 3 months later, Yanran's white hair began to darken. For the first time, Mrs. Pei invited me home for dinner. During dinner, she said, "This young man is practically part of the Pei family now." Yanran froze. I picked up the conversation. "Ma'am, that's right. I'm fully part of the Pei family now." It took me back to the day I proposed. That day, after I played her favorite piece, Moonlight, there were the same lights and flowers as 5 years ago. Only this time, I was the one proposing. Yanran came onto the stage to give me flowers. I didn't take them. Instead, I dropped to one knee. 5 years ago, you protected me. From now on, let me protect you. Yanran, will you marry me? Her eyes brimmed with hot tears. She nodded again and again.